Okay, everyone, let us take a look at some ratios and proportions. There are a couple of different ways you can approach these types of problems. I'm just going to go with one way for this video, but I will leave some links in the description where you can watch some other information, other helpful videos about ratios and proportions. So we're just going to work with this table here. We're given 4 columns, four questions, 4 parts. Number of teeth on gear 1, number of teeth on gear 2, and the RPM of gear 1 and the RPM of gear 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split this table into half for myself. So I'm going to try color coding to see if that helps at all. So I'm going to do red for the left side. And do, well, orange is too close to red. Hold on. Let's do blue. Blue for this side. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make ratios, fractions of the numbers on the red side and set them equal to fractions made of numbers on the right side. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the blank here. We're going to do problem A. I'm just going to use a little A there because I don't know what that is. You can use an X, you can use a Y, whatever. I'm going to use an A. So let's make a fraction with what we have in the first set here. So the number of teeth on gear 1 is 10, 10. Make a fraction with the other number, which is 28, 28. Okay. Now I'm going to make a fraction with this one, the blue side. So the RPM of gear 1, 280, 280. And I do not know the other number. We're going to find that. Now that I have these two fractions, I'm going to set them equal to each other. And I'm going to use the butterfly method to get this from fractions to non-fractions. So let's do that. So I'm going to multiply the top of one fraction at the bottom of the opposite. Make sure you get the first butterfly wing. So I have 1010 times A. And I actually really can't do any math there because I don't know what A is. So it's just 1010 times A. Now multiply the bottom of the first fraction by the top of the other. I'm going to grab a calculator for this one. Now I'm using a TI-84. Any simple calculator will do. You definitely don't need this fancy schmancy thing. As long as you can multiply with it, you're good. So 28 times 280. 280. That's a big number. Okay. 7, 9, 2, 6, 3, 1, 8, 4, 0. When I get big numbers like this, I like to read them back to make sure I typed everything in correctly and I have the right one. So it was 28 times 280, okay. 7, whoops. 7, 9, 2, 6, 1, 3, 8, 4, 0. Okay. All right, it's not pretty, but we got it. And then to finish the butterfly method, you must drop the equal sign down in the center. Then if you want to keep things nice and neat for yourself, you can make a little dotted line to remind yourself that this is where the equals is. And you have a left side and you have a right side. So now that we're down here, I'm going to go through PEMDAS. Now that we've converted our equations so there's a lot less fraction, we're going to do PEMDAS. Is there any parentheses you can do? No. Exponents? No. Multiplication? There is multiplication right there. But since I don't know what A is, I can't do it. So move on. Any division? No. Addition, subtraction? No. So we've worked through PEMDAS. That's done. We did the most math we could possibly do. So now we're going to go on to SADMAT. Instead of doing math, we're going to undo it. And whenever you use SADMAP, you always want to focus on the variable. Where is the letter? What's happening to the letter? So our letter's over here. What's happening to this letter? Is there any subtraction happening to this letter? No. Any addition happening to this letter? No. Any division happening to this letter? No. Any multiplication happening to this letter? Yes. So we are undoing math here. So I need to undo that multiplication by using its opposite. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 10, 10. And whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. This is a butterfly method. And typically butterfly wings are symmetrical. Another way you can think of it is if I used to think of it as if you give one toy to the kid over here, you have to give one toy to the kid over here, otherwise there's going to be a fight to break out. I don't know why I thought of it that way, but whatever. So getting back to the actual math, we have 10, 10 times A, divide by 10, 10. These two just cancel out, which is what we wanted. That's why we decided to do that particular operation. So we just get A by itself. Now over here, I'm going to go ahead and definitely again use a calculator. Let's divide that gigantic number by 1010. I get still a big number, but a little easier. So 784,784. So A, the missing number in this box, must be 784,784. And I know I'm all done here because there's nothing else happening to the 8. There's no multiplication, no exponents, no parentheses. There's no more math I can do. The A is by itself, so that must be our answer. So let's go ahead and use the same process for B, C, and D. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can give it a shot. Setting up a ratio with the numbers that are in the red box equal to the numbers in the blue box. See if you can try it. Pause it here. And then when you're ready, go ahead and press play and we'll see how we do. Okay, so let me erase what we got. We did that one. Let's do the next one. Okay, so I'm going to be looking in row B. And again, I'm going to set up a ratio with the numbers in the red box. I've got 35, 35, and there's nothing right here, so I'm just going to put a B in there because I'm on part B. Okay, so there's that one. Blue box, we have, they like repeating numbers. This is weird. 1, 4, 5, 5. And the other number, 30, 30. Okay. Once you have those two fractions, set them equal to each other. And then you can use the butterfly method. Multiply the top of the first fraction by the bottom of the second fraction as your first wing. I'm actually going to write this out. I did skip that step last time, but there's no harm in writing out more of the work you're doing, especially if you're going to be referring to your notes later on. So that's the first step. You can get the second wing by multiplying the denominator of the first fraction by the numerator of the second fraction. Scoot over because these numbers are big. So B times 4, 5, 4, 5. And then the last part, my butterfly's a little wonky, but put an equal sign in between them. All right, so once you have that, go through PEMDAS. PEMDAS, do all the math you possibly can. There's no parentheses, that's done. No exponents, that's done. There is multiplication though. I can multiply these two. Again, using the calculator. I don't think I could do it in my head. I mean, maybe, but it would probably take a couple hours and my head might smoke, so I'm not going to risk it. So let's see. 5, 3, 5 times 3. 3. Sorry, that's with big numbers, man. So 1, 5, 2, 1, 5, 7, 0, 0, 5, 0. Yeah, okay, well, I'm glad I didn't try to do that in my head. All right, let me double check my numbers. I always, before I go too far, double check. So 5, 4, 3, 0, 4, 3, 0. Okay. 1, 5, 2, 1, 5, 7. 0, 0, 5, 0. Okay. 0, 0. There it is. Okay. All right, so I multiplied those. Now over here, as far as the multiplication goes, I have B times the 145,145. But since I don't know what B is, I can't do anything. So let's just keep it this way. In your textbook or in the videos, you may not see this multiplication symbol very much. There are a couple of reasons for that. One, sometimes it confuses people and it looks like an X, so it looks like BX, and that just gets confusing. So you might actually see a little dot instead. Let me do a little dot. That little dot still means times. Or you might see parentheses. Parentheses indicate multiplication. Or sometimes when it comes to numbers and letters, you might not see anything at all. You might actually just see them squished together, written like this. 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. The number usually comes first, and then the letter just kind of hangs off the end there. And that all of those cases I just showed you, they all do mean multiplication is happening. So you might see any one of those. Use whatever works for you. Just know that your textbook or the videos may use any of those methods. Personally, I try to avoid using the X because my handwriting is not fabulous and I might confuse myself and forget that it's not an X, it's a times. But use whatever works for you. All right, so here we are. Where's my scroll? There we go. So here's what we've gotten down to now. And we're still following PEMDAS. We just did the multiplication between those two numbers and got that one. And we determined we really couldn't multiply between these two, so we kind of just left it hanging. There's no division, there's no addition, there's no subtraction. So now we're ready for SADMAP. Whenever you do SADMAP, you always focus on where the letter is. So looking at my letter B, is there any subtraction or addition? No. Any division? No. Any multiplication? Yes. I have it written so that they're squished together, but that still means multiplication. So I need to do the opposite of that. Whenever you're doing SADMAPs, you're working in opposites. So the opposite of multiplication is division. And I have to do it to both sides. So I'm going to divide both sides by 145,145. Now it's going to cancel out over here, which will leave me with just the B, which is good. That's what I want. Now on this side, I actually have to do the math. And again, relying on that calculator. Always being careful when there are big numbers to make sure it's all typed in properly. And I get, looks like 10,483.10345. So this is what we get for B. Now, your homework questions, your quiz questions, your test questions, all of these, they should tell you how to round. And I believe this one wants us to round to the nearest whole number. If you need some practice with rounding, I'll leave some resources in the description. For this number, here's my whole place, my whole number, my ones place. And I'm going to look to the right of it. And if the number to the right is 5 or above, I can bump up my first number. I can bump up my whole number. But ours is just a 1 rating here, which means I just leave the 10,483 as it is, and I drop off the decimal. So the 10,483.10345 rounded to the nearest whole number is just 10,483. Again, I'll leave some resources in the description about rounding if you'd like to check those out. So at this point, we are all done with SADMAP. We just took care of the multiplication. There's no division. There's literally nothing happening to the B now, so there's nothing else I can try to undo. So this must be my answer for B, 10,483. Let's keep going. Let's see. We might get some more practice with rounding. The first one we didn't have to round, but rounding is a big skill that can be tricky for a lot of people. So again, I will leave some resources for you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment on this video. All right, so on to part C. So in my red box, I have, whoops, that's my eraser still. Red box. The first thing is actually unknown, so I'm going to have a C. I'm going to divide that by the second number, which is 6,464. So the box, I have 160,160. Divide that by 100,100. Let's set these two equal to each other. I'll put PEMDAS down here in SADMAP because we know we're going to need them. Might as well get them here as a habit. Okay. So first things first, let's use that butterfly method. Let's multiply the top of the first fraction, or the numerator, what do you want to call it, by the bottom of the other fraction with the denominator. I personally flip-flop between technical terms and the not technical terms. Again, just like with the how you write things out, do whatever works for you. So I did do a times this time instead of a dot or parentheses. I might change that later. Whatever works. Okay. I think this is going to be a big one. 6, 4, 6, 4, 6, 0, 1, 6, 0. Okay, and then drop down the equal sign. I'm going to make my little separation so I don't forget that I've got two different sides of an equation. So on the left here, we have C times 100,100. You can keep it written that way. Again, you might see it written like this with the number first, and then the letter just slapped on. You might see it written with a little dot, like that. You might see it written perhaps with the number first, and then parentheses with the letter, parentheses. I don't think I like that one too much. I think I'm gonna go with the 100,100. I'm gonna slap the C on there, and the multiplication is implied. So that's on my left. On my right, I have some actual multiplication to do. Again, we're following PEMDAS here. There weren't any parentheses or exponents or anything. So now I'm working on whatever multiplication or division I can do. Actually, I only see multiplication, so let's do it. 6,464 times 160,160. These numbers, man. So let's be careful. 1, 0, 3, 5, 2, 7, 2, 4, 0. Double check that. 0, 3, 5, 2, 7, 4, 2, 4, 0. Okay. All right. Another delightful big number. So for most of these problems, it looks like there's not a lot of PEMDAS to do other than the multiplication. There hasn't been any division, addition, subtraction, so we're done with those. Let's move on to SADMAP. And remember, SADMAP always focuses on where your letter is. So look at your letter and see if there's any subtraction, no, any addition, no, division, no, multiplication, yes. This is one of the ways multiplication is written. So I need to undo. SADMAP is used for undoing things. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides of my equation by that number that is being multiplied to my letter. Now, over here, where the letter is, the whole point is just to cancel it out. You don't even have to do the math where the letter is. You only have to do the math on one side. And for us, it's over here. So calculator back. Divide that by 100,100. Okay. So on the left, we got just a plain old C. On the right, when we did the division, we ended up with 10,342.4. So that's our preliminary answer. Let's round this to the nearest whole number. So the whole number in the ones place. So that's called the rounding digit. I'm going to look over one to the right, and if the number over on the right is 5 or above, the rounding digit would get bumped up. But in our case, the number on the right is only a 4. It's not enough to bump up the rounding digit, the 2. We can't bump that up into a 3. All we can do is just round off. So we're going to get 10,342, and that's it. Decimal gets rounded away. So that's what we have for C. So one more. Like I said, there'll be plenty of other resources in the description. This is just one way to approach ratios and proportions. If you find a different way that is mathematically sound that works for you, and it's not this one, that's totally cool. Just let your tutor know when you're working with them what you prefer, and I'm sure they'll be happy to work with you on that. All right, so last one, D. So numbers in the red box. 2, 4, 2, 4, divided by 3, 0, 3, 0. Okay. Numbers in the second box. Well, there's one missing here, so I'll just use a D. I'll use that in place. And then, oh goody, here's a big number. 1, 4, 0, 0. You think someone just randomly picked numbers for this? I kind of wonder sometimes. All right, so there are two fractions, one from the red side, blue side. Set them equal to each other. Let me write down PEMDAS and SADMAP because we know we're going to be using those. Basically, anytime there's a letter, a variable in your problem, you're going to be using PEMDAS and SADMAP. I can't say every time, but almost all the time. I'm going to use my butterfly method. Multiply the top of the first fraction by the bottom of the other. I'll write that out. That way I have my steps for me. So 2424 times 1400, 0, 0, first one, and then bottom of the first fraction times top of the other. So then I have 3030 times D. I'm just going to smoosh those together. All right, so let's go ahead and where's my PEMDAS and SADMAP? I lost the P. So working with PEMDAS, go through whatever you can. The only thing I see that I can do is multiplication, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm probably going to get a really, really large number. Yeah, I got a really big number here. So I'm going to leave a link in the description that talks about if you have a calculator and it shows you E, it's basically the calculator's way of saying, dude, this number is either really too big or really too small. And so the E is scientific notation. I don't think we talk too much about scientific notation in this class. So if this occurs to you, there's a couple different ways that you can get around it. One thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually use a different calculator. The one I was just using was the TI-84. But if I use the one that's just built into my computer, or I don't know if the Google, like if you Google a calculator, if that will do it. But we'll test it out. So I'm just going to use this little fella here. I don't think this does scientific notation. If you'd like, I will leave resources about what scientific notation is if you're curious. But if it doesn't come up in the class and you don't have time to explore it, don't worry. There are ways around it for problems like this. So this calculator here was not afraid of showing me the full number instead of scientific notation. So I'm not going to remember it. I'm going to keep looking back. It's huge. 33,939,393,600. Okay, so as far as PEMDAS goes, there weren't any parentheses, no exponents. We just did the multiplication. There's no division, there's no addition, there's no subtraction. The only multiplication left is technically between the 30/30 and the D, but again, we can't do it because we don't know what D is. So we've done PEMDAS. We're going to move on to SADMAP. And this, again, SADMAP always centers around the variable, the letter. So looking at the letter, is there any subtraction? No. Addition? No. Division? No. Multiplication? Yes, these two are being multiplied. Whether you have the multiplication symbol or they're just smushed together, they are being multiplied. So I need to undo that by dividing. Oops, that looks funny. 0. So let's divide both sides by the 30/30. And it's just going to cancel here. The whole goal of SADMAP is to take one of the numbers away from the variable. In this case, we took out the 30/30, which means D will be by itself, which is good. That's what we want. Variables are typically loners. They like to be completely isolated and totally by themselves. So let's see. We're going to take this gigantic number and divide it by 30. I'm just going to use the calculator for this. Okay. Now this one does not have any decimals, so it looks like there's nothing to round. So that is already the nearest whole number. Oops. So that's it. Again, I will leave some resources, like I said, about different ways you can approach this. There were at least 3 different ways we could have done this one in this video. I just happened to do it this way, try and keep it nice and clear. We could have taken, we could have, instead of dividing it into 2 boxes like this, with the left and the right, we could have taken and done a number from column 1 divided by column 3, and then 2 divided by 4, but bouncing back and forth like that, not always fun. So that was a viable option. I just didn't want to do it. So if you have any questions about this video, please leave them in the description. I will happily get back to you. And again, check out the resources that I'm putting in the description for additional help about some of the things we talked about. And I wish you the best of luck.